So your concrete example of the parking spots became something that we just use in our common language.
And we're talking kindergarten, first grade, all the way up to 12th.
Welcome to the Academic Coaching Podcast, everyone, brought to you by the Anti-Boring Learning Lab. I am your host, Gretchen Wegner, and this is the show where we reflect on the craft of coaching students. We're talking study skills, executive function strategies, tips and tricks for teaching the science to students, and occasionally a little biz advice thrown in for those of you in private practice. And today, if you've ever wondered why great professional development so rarely changes classroom practice, today you are in for such a treat. So, okay, in my experience, classroom teachers don't often think of themselves as academic coaches. They are there to teach content and thinking skills, but not often study skills or executive function strategies or the science of how the brain learns. But, and this is good news, this is changing in districts across the world, certainly also in the United States, as more and more educators embrace the science of learning. And I was completely honored when two of these educators, Suzy Evans and Saeed of Vrain Valley School District, saw me speak at a recent Research Ed conference about my favorite academic coaching tool for students, what I call the cognitive overload mini lecture. And they knew immediately that the teachers in their Science of Learning Collaborative needed to know this pronto. So they brought me in. And this interview that you're about to see takes place about 2 months after I came to speak to their Science of Learning Collaborative, which, by the way, is a completely unique model for opt-in professional development that I can't wait for you to hear about. Listen in and hear in real time as these two fabulous educators report back on how my cognitive overload mini lecture became their teacher's favorite professional development of the year. I'm still blown away by that. And it also, and perhaps more importantly, gave teachers language that they started using right away with students to talk about the overload that everybody is experiencing. So let's dive in and meet Shane and Suzy and hear what happened next.
Hello.
We do. Good. You guys are going to hear who Suzy and Shane are in a moment, but I just want to say that I met them when I was presenting at a Research Ed conference in Denver, November 2025, I think it was.
I think that's
Yeah.
right. Wow.
Yeah. And we
It feels so
actually,
long ago.
It feels like
does.
a million years ago, but I think that's right.
Yeah, and we met at the speaker gathering the night before, and that's when we realized, oh, we felt a connection and we felt, oh, and then you all came to my presentation, which I'm so honored that you did.
It was so
It
good.
was mind-blowing and pun intended, right? This is about brain research, of course, and it was mind-blowing and it was presented so concisely and something that we felt we could translate directly back to our teachers.
Beautiful. Well, let's hear who those teachers are first, and then we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about what made you invite me to come in, because actually then I came in to train your
Mhm.
group of teachers, and we're going to share all about that with you all and what the training was like and what the takeaways from your faculty were. But first, people need to know about the incredible and unique work you're doing. So which one of you wants to start off?
You start?
No, you can start.
Okay. I'm Saeed. We both work
Yes.
for Vrain Valley School District in Longmont, Colorado. And my particular role, I am the elementary ELA curriculum coordinator. So I'm in charge of all the reading and writing programming for our 30 elementary schools. And Suzy and I first met during our Science of Learning Collaborative. The very first year we were on the steering committee together.
Mhm.
And that's where our love for this work had started, was 7 years ago, and where our friendship started,
Right.
and
We
it only
also
just grew from there.
had that instant connection
Yes.
happen between the two of us, so that was fun.
And you are?
I am Suzy Evans, Susanna Evans, but only my mother calls me that really. So go by Suzy, and I'm an instructional coordinator in St. Vrain Valley Schools. So I have the honor of supporting lots of principals and schools in analyzing their data and working with teachers on instructional practices, science of learning nerd. And we both co-host the Vrain Waves podcast with a V, Vrain Waves, which is our district's podcast, and we talk almost exclusively about the same things, science of learning and instructional shifts that you can take back to your classroom. So we're in our 8th year together, working with teachers in our district in the Science of Learning collaborative that we've created here.
So we were on that.
yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
I was
Well,
going to say we're on that steering committee.
Yep.
And now
yes.
every year since then, we have a group of teachers, PK-12, no matter the content area, that come together to learn together about the science of learning, how our brains work, and how we can actually use that knowledge within our practice to make strong instructional shifts.
And here's what I love about your collective, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we sparked interest that first night, was that, well, back up to say, when I left teaching, I had a commitment inside myself. I'm never going to work with students who don't want to work with me ever again. And then I started being invited to do professional development for teachers, and I started to say yes to them. And I realized that most professional development for teachers is training that the teachers have not chosen to do, that they're required to do. And I thought, oh dear, I don't know if I love this. And then you all told me that your collective is all opt-in. Say a little bit more about how the collective started and grew.
So back in 2019, one of the members of the assessment team
Yeah, from our district.
found Patrice Bain's Powerful Teaching book and thought, this is something, and cherry picked about
few teachers, 12 of us.
12 of us to do a book study, I guess we would
Yeah, it
call
was
it.
like a year-long book study and just learning together about the science of learning, start to integrate some of the practices, some really light action research in our classrooms, if you will.
And then COVID hit. And the world stopped. And so that was a whole thing. And then the second year, I think we had
9
people, and it was all
Mm.
virtual, and it wasn't our favorite year. But then since
Nobody's
then,
favorite year ever in the
No
history of the world.
no one's favorite year. Since then, we've been slowly
chugging along, gaining some momentum.
word of mouth, teachers, us too, kind of hand-picking teachers that we thought, oh, there's someone who would love this. And word of mouth started to spread. And each year it got bigger and bigger. And again, we're about to launch our 8th year together next year. It is 100% voluntary. In fact, they actually pay $30
to be a part of it. And get credit.
They do, yes, they do get credit, but they pay for this. We have at least half, maybe 40% that return year after year after year. They can continue to do it and still get credit. So we have people who have been with us for 5 or 6 years now. And we are up to 70 members.
75 this year.
75 members this year. Again, all voluntary teachers that are just so excited to refine their practice and re-energize their love of teaching and shift the workload to students and inspire their students to own their learning.
Yeah, and it's a year-long collaborative. So we meet every month on late start days in the afternoons, because we know that we're not going to coincide with any staff meetings. Those staff meetings happened in the morning during that late start. And as Suzy said, those teachers, they're there. And we had people share out. We recently had our last session in May, and where they do their final presentations, and they share.
Yes, you need to come to that one night.
I should have come this year. Please, if you remember to invite me, I'm there in a heartbeat.
Deal. It's like they share their final presentations of what they learned, what they did, what they learned about their students, their practice, what worked, what didn't work, how they shifted. We had returning members share out to the new members this year why they choose to return year after year. And a lot of it was that they love the community of educators that has grown, right? It's like-minded people who want to continue to grow. They love that every year is different, right? We don't teach the same thing every year. We really tailor everything based on feedback of each session. So like whatever they're processing or mulling over, we definitely plan for the next session, right? There's never a set syllabus, if you
No.
will. It's set by, we're
Mhm.
responsive to the participants.
Mhm.
And that was really cool to know that people return because they love the community and the collective efficacy that's built within.
And now we're to the point again where we have so many returning year after year that we're starting to delegate, because the last thing we want is to, we say this all the time, it's not the
It's not the Shane and
we
Suzy
say
show.
this at the same time. We talk a lot at the same. It is not the Shane and Suzy show. It is not that at all. It is about building collective efficacy with
Mhm.
all of the teachers and then translating that to collective efficacy for the students. So now we have teacher leaders in our group that will come with us to schools and present at different
Yeah, when we do
schools.
site-based PD, that is
Yes.
a little forced, but
Mhm.
the teachers love when we bring teachers from other buildings.
Right.
Absolutely. That's
They
where
could
it should
hear from
be. It's
us.
peers, just like
Yes,
with our students.
They
Anyway.
want to hear from peers, right? And so they're leading now, they're leading groups of new members, and we're just the empowerment is tangible almost. And that last night of the year in May, every year, it is
we cry every
we
year, happy
cry
tears.
every year, and we can't, just the energy that's in the building. We have lots of people that administration from the district that come just to watch that night, and it is truly the best, most bucket filling night of the year.
This is what PD should be. And so I'm hoping that if people only watch this part of the video and don't go anywhere else, you consider this kind of a model. I don't know if you guys are open to reach outs. You were presenting about the model at Research Ed, and I
Yes.
wasn't able to go to that then.
Yeah.
But it's a new consulting gig for you. Let's get these collectives in every district in the country and world, I think.
Well, yeah, we've really shifted. We used to present at CASE and Research Ed about the science of learning specifically, and we've kind of shifted to presenting about this
How do you do this
collaborative
in your
model
system?
of professional development versus, which is an ongoing learning opportunity versus those one and done trainings.
Yeah.
And now,
Yes.
not to say that those are all bad, and sometimes we're launching a program and there needs
Yeah, they're
to
needed. They're
need to be a
needed.
training, right?
Yeah.
But this ongoing learning opportunity is definitely filling a need for a lot of people we're seeing. And Shane has
Yeah.
even taken that and moved it into elementary ELA too. And we had
Same
a
model.
similar number of people voluntarily sign up for it. So something about this collaborative model is speaking to people, and we're so happy about
And
it.
then the culture changes. The people who
Yes.
don't want to come don't have to come.
Right. Nope.
The culture changes, and then eventually, maybe several years down the line, they will have made some small changes, those who can't come but heard through the grapevine. So I just think, I was thinking about the work of Parker Palmer as you guys were talking about. Do you know his work?
No. Tell us
Look
more.
him up. I mean, he's a former actual Quaker,
I'll
but
love it.
he is an educator, and he works on this spirituality, teachers and spirituality. And what does it look like to really refresh our souls through our work? And that's what I heard you describing, which is so cool because it doesn't sound spiritual at all, except they get to opt in, they get to build a deep community with other people in their district, and they get this sense of meaning, like we're doing incredible work, and they're learning. They're learning in a way that isn't the forced model. I also was thinking about Paulo Freire, just to put in a bunch of names here, but it's not a forced model. It is it's the joy of deep, ongoing learning, which is actually what my anti-boring learning lab is all about for people who want that experience but don't have it in their districts or for academic coaches in their worlds, and so they want to join an online community. It's very similar actually, and my people stay for years. They come in thinking they just want to learn a little bit, and then they stay because they need all those other things.
We often see that they think they're going to be 1 year, and then after the night in May, they come from their little breakout session and they're like, "Yep, I'm in. I'm signing up again." It is beautiful.
And we've seen there are some teachers who have shared with us that they were kind of in this space of disillusionment with education, their practice, and they were feeling really stuck and actually in a pretty negative place. And after joining the collaborative, and it was after like teammates had gone and been like, "You just need to come with me." And they're like kicking and screaming, joining. And then it like after, a couple months, it's like, wow, this this actually works. It's rejuvenated them. It's rejuvenated their practice because they feel like they're making an impact and
Yeah.
supporting their kids. And that's really what we're here to do, right? We're here to
Yeah.
support our kids.
Mm-hmm.
To support our kids in a way that doesn't detract from our well-being and our joy and our vibrancy in life, but also
Yes.
adds to it as well. It's not
Yeah.
one over the other, it's both. And you guys have accidentally happened upon an incredible way to do that.
Well, it's
So,
sustainable. Like you said, we
yes.
also talk a lot about sustainability
Sustainability.
because this profession is taxing. We know that. And it is that's a very important piece. It has to be, whatever you're doing has to be
Yeah.
sustainable.
And so I'm going to transition us by saying that for years, I've been kind of banging my head against like, how do I get teachers in schools to be more interested in growing their capacity to support students' study skills? Because teachers are, I know, overwhelmed and all the things. But in my mind, I was like, if we can get students to understand the metacognitive task of paying attention to their learning, and we give them skills to own their learning, then the teacher has more time. Then the teacher gets to use their expertise to co-create with the students. And I guess I want to ask you, as I transition us to talking more about cognitive overload, am I nuts about that, or am I onto something with that from what you've seen?
No, you're not
That's
nuts.
100% it, right? It's honoring the honoring the agency students come in with
Mhm.
and giving them the tools to be able to be the drivers of their own learning because
Mhm.
we shouldn't be the motivators. That's
Right.
extrinsic. We
Correct.
want it to be completely intrinsic, and they should be the ones monitoring, right? We're there to calibrate,
Mhm.
but we are not, we want them to be the ones doing the learning.
Right.
You love
Right.
to
I
say,
love to say you've already done seventh grade, so they need to do seventh
Yeah.
grade, right? And while it's wonderful to establish
Mhm.
strong relationships with your
Mhm.
students, of course, we love
Mhm.
being a loved teacher. If you create a situation where they only want to work for you, then you've really done them a disservice.
Mhm.
We need to establish that intrinsic motivation and that drive and that ownership so that
Mhm.
they can do that no matter who's standing in front of them in the
Yeah.
classroom, and they will do that for themselves as they become
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah. And I'll just layer onto that my view from outside in the academic coaching and executive function coaching and tutoring world. The one way I would slightly tweak, not disagree, but tweak what you just said is there are some students, especially our neurodivergent sweeties, who
Mm.
don't have the capacity for intrinsic motivation yet or for a very long time. And so, but that doesn't mean that we can't build their awareness of what you need. And if you need extrinsic motivators and rewards, then that gets to be okay and you get to ask for it. And then the teacher who notices they depend on me and our good relationship just gets to add one little question. And I use this in coaching. I've never heard teachers use it before, but if you try it, let me know. And it's, what did I do to help you learn today?
Yes.
And how can you do that for yourself in the future?
Yes.
And
Beautiful.
when are there other skills you need to be ready to do that? I'm happy to support you right now, but let's make sure there's a plan so that you know that you're the one who gets to do that for yourself in the future. It's so exciting. It's so empowering. You're going to get there. I believe in you. And how do we get you there?
Love that.
Amazing.
Self-aware learners.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's what we want. Okay. But we met at the cognitive overload teach and presentation, and I was sharing so my specialty is teaching educators how to teach students the least the students need to know about specific pieces of cognitive science that I have noticed, and all the coaches who've worked with me are noticing, move the students faster towards effective independent action. And I have been teaching a lot of stuff, retrieval practice and all the things. But I have noticed that this cognitive overload mini lecture, which basically teaches about how working memory works, it's moved to the top of my list as the first thing I share with students. So if they never hear anything else, they hear how working memory works, how overload works, and the fact that we need strategies to help us with our overload. We get the brain we have, the working memory we have is what we have. We can't improve it with exercise, but we can improve our ability to use strategies. And it's so empowering, I've noticed. But there was something about that presentation that really appealed to you all for your teachers. So will you talk about that some?
Well, I think you're underselling you too.
Yeah.
I think you are a large part of why we love that session. So
Mhm.
let's make sure we throw that in, Gretchen.
Okay.
Because it is the
Okay.
way the passion and the
Yes.
excitement that you bring to it, but in a very concise, visual way, right? You bring in your whiteboard.
Mhm.
I just remember when you started, Suzy turns around to me and she goes, "We need her to come talk to our teachers."
It's true. I did.
And then she tracked you down at lunch.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
exactly how that went down.
Yes.
But
Yes.
truly, I'm not surprised at all that this has risen to the top of
Yeah.
your request list because we were just talking before we hopped on about every year in, 8 years in now, there's usually one concept, one session that we've had that seems to
Like really
land
stick.
and resonate with the whole group more than anything else. And for us this year, it was yours. And it was around, true story, it was around the working memory and the metaphor that and the visuals that you use equating it to parking spaces is it's just genius and it's so easy for people to understand and how that affects student learning and transfer to long-term memory. And that's exactly why we thought this needs to be the message that we bring
Mm.
to our teachers.
Because that concept was a bit, we go over it every year, but
Mhm.
it is very abstract, right?
It's
Like,
so abstract. It's heady. It's like, oh yeah,
It
that
is.
exists, but we don't
Right.
experience it in ourselves,
Mhm.
our own brains, much less how is it happening in students?
Mhm.
exactly. And so your concrete example of the parking spots became something that parking spots is now something that
Yep.
we just is in our
Every
common language.
everyday
Mhm.
vocabulary now is
Wow.
parking spaces. I
Yeah.
don't have parking spaces anymore, or
Yeah.
I've got a full lot. I'm
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
talk about this right
I
now.
love
But
that.
what was cool is the teachers were able to take that and internalize it, right?
Mhm.
I'm getting feedback from
Mhm.
PDs that aren't science of learning, but people that were in the science of learning that were then saying, yeah, this was hard today, but I think it's because my parking spaces were taken
Yep.
up. And I'm like, oh, this is a science of learning participant.
Yes.
I know, I don't know who this is,
Yeah.
but I know that they're what they're doing. But then it was the transfer of that information
To
to their
student.
student.
It happened
Mhm.
immediately. They literally went back. We presented or we worked with you on a Wednesday,
Mhm.
and by Friday
I got
that day,
emails. Mhm.
You sent one of them to me, but I didn't
I
know there
did.
were
we were
multiple.
hearing
So
we were hearing from teachers
yeah.
immediately that they had taken that exact concept, visuals, everything,
Mhm.
and taught it to their students. And we're talking kindergarten, first grade, all the way up to 12th.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what's shocking to me is the two examples that people. So after Denver, a teacher emailed me, and then after presenting for you all, you sent another one, and they were both second and third grade. And like my specialty, I was a middle school teacher, but my real specialty is college and like high school and college. And so I'm just floored that something that I helped to create is working for the elementary kiddos too.
Oh yeah, I was so
Mhm.
like we said, our final presentations were in early May, and I sat through a kindergarten presentation where the kindergarten teacher reflected on giving that little less mini lesson on
Mhm.
working memory to her kindergartners. Her
Mm.
kindergartners were able to actually have language to let her know when they were overwhelmed. My parking spaces are filled up, or I feel like this is filling up a parking space, all the way to I watched an administrator's final presentation because we have
Yep,
administrators
we
in
had a
our
principal
collab,
in our group this year.
and he was phenomenal. And he's also the 504 coordinator for his building as well. And he was saying how it was so helpful to have that concrete example when he's talking about working memory with parents to be
Mhm.
able to say, and this is why this particular accommodation is working. And let's like, talk about what working memory is. And parents were able to understand and grasp it.
And so just to be able, it's a quick sketch that you can do. I mean, it takes about 15 minutes to teach it the way I teach it, but it can be shortened and shortened and shortened.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I do want to name the parking spot terminology was not mine originally. It
Oh.
was from a member of our community, Susanna Cole,
who was practicing teaching the working memory mini lecture that I had created, and she started using parking spot terminology, and then it took off in our community, and she got it from someone that she doesn't remember. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I think I made that up, you might have, and let me know. And we're so grateful for people sharing good ideas.
So grateful because we literally, like Shane said, we literally use it all the time. We sometimes equate it to Trader Joe's parking lots because we all know how Trader Joe's parking spaces are this big and there's only 4 or 5 of them, at least in Colorado. I don't know about anywhere else, but in Colorado, they're the worst parking lots ever.
We have the biggest cars because of the snow.
Right.
Oh, right. Biggest cars, smallest parking lots, which, there's probably a good metaphor there as well.
Yes, I'm sure.
And side note, some of our lab members, who we like to call collaborators, because once you stay in the lab for a while, you're bought into all my processes around the least you need to know and how to be visual and anyway, all of that. They're working on an addendum to this mini lecture that layers on processing speed. Because the truth is, it's not just that the parking lots can get filled up, but it's how fast cars are coming in compared to your capacity. And so being aware of that too is useful. And I still stand by, I'm always into what's the least you need to know. And if somebody doesn't know about processing speed, but they learn about working memory in this way that I share, I still think it's the first stop. But there is this lovely little addition that people are working on, making it visual and fun and all of that.
That makes so much sense. And I'm thinking about, I think I even mentioned it in our session, I'm generally a pretty fast processor. And there was one day where we were meeting and I had just come from a really heavy meeting and
Like processing speed went all the way down.
I think Shane could almost see it and she looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" Because my processing speed was not at its normal functioning rate. And so that makes perfect sense to me. That's really,
and they're tied together. There's not really a separation between the working memory capacity and the processing speed. So it's kind of, so probably you also had fewer parking spots, and then the more parking spots that are taken up, like the harder your brain has to process, and then your speed goes to anyway. Blah, blah, blah. There's regulation stuff.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. So do you have other stories? You mentioned you had things to tell me, so I don't know if you have a list of things you wanted to mention, or have we said all the things we wanted to share? But if there's more, I'm all ears.
Oh, there's more. There's more. So after we were online with you and our members,
we're
and
hybrid, 1 month on in person, 1 month online.
Which, if people are interested in reaching out about this model, that has been something that's been an integral piece, is the flexibility of in-person and online. But the following month, we got so much great reaction about your presentation that people really wanted to know, okay, so how do we clear parking spots? And so we, based on our conversation with you, which there's more to it, I'm sure, but you mentioned, movement breaks are a way to clear parking spots. Checks for understandings, retrieval, checklists, so that
brain dumps.
And so what we did was, our next meeting was in person, and we built our whole 2-hour session in a way of, we're clearing a parking space here. We did a movement break when they came in, and we even made it visual. We had a green check mark next to each place where we were modeling, oh, we're clearing a parking space right now, and made it totally transparent with the teachers in the room so they could actually see what a lesson might look like in their classroom, where they would stop, brain dump, get up and move, take a walk, take a drink of water, and clear parking spaces for kids. And it was such a hit.
We were able to kind of meld that with Gene Tavernetti's Teach Fast, right? His teaching model.
I've heard him present about it, but I don't remember it right now. But do you know the name of the whole thing so people can look it up if they want to?
Oh, I mean, his book is called Teach Fast.
Right. Oh, just the Teach Fast book. Okay.
Focused, adaptability,
it's down
It's
below. It's not
literally
up
on her shelf.
Usually
Yes.
my shelf, but
Yeah.
now I pulled it
But
down.
it is brilliant, and it's about where to insert the best places to insert this work and embed this work throughout your
Mm.
lesson.
Oh, great.
So it was a combination of those two concepts, and
Yeah.
the teachers just, it was mind-blowing.
It was
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
big aha for them. Not
Mm.
only now do we understand why we chunk, right, with work with working memory,
Mhm.
we now also have ways that we can clear parking spaces. And then also, how do you do that in a way that is supporting their processing of the content that they've learned? So hopefully we're working on that storing,
Mhm.
right? And we're making
Right.
connections and we're
Right.
hopefully putting it into long-term memory.
Right. Right. Oh, I love it.
It's great.
It was so exciting.
Yeah. I'm thinking through the lens of different people I know, and some of the executive function experts I work with would probably just want to say here that just because you're doing an exercise like a movement break or whatever doesn't mean parking spots are going to get cleaned up for everybody. And it could be
Correct.
something that will take up parking spots in other brains. So just that we remember that every brain is different. That just feels
Every brain is different.
important to name. Every brain is the
Absolutely.
same and every brain is different. And that's one of the weird things we're balancing, I think, in the science of learning world is to not err on just one of those. Sometimes I think science of learning then assumes that every student is going to need it exactly the same way. And then those of us who work in special ed and amongst neurodivergent folks are like, oh, we got to be a little careful about that too.
Oh yeah, I think about the work that we've done with
Mhm.
dyslexia in our district, and we
Mhm.
talk about uh, opportunities for accurate practice and repetitions, and how some brains can do 5 to 15 repetitions of content, and that
Mhm.
maps, right? And then sometimes it takes 50 to 500 repetitions, right? So as you said, it's really
Right.
dependent on the student and how they're processing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and another thought came up for me. So now we're in collaborator mode because I was like, oh, did you do this? And if you didn't, do you think it would be helpful? And if you did, I'd like to hear about it. But this being when you were practicing the brain or just the different strategies to clear parking spots, was there a moment of having people reflect beforehand, like a metacognitive moment? Like, let's pause. Where's the state? How's everybody's parking spots doing? How many of
Mhm.
you are full? How many of you are not so full? Let's just see where we are. And now let's do something to help with that might help for some of you.
Yeah, that's the
Yep,
exact first thing that we did
check for understanding.
Yeah.
And truly they come to us
after a full day of teaching. Yeah.
15. They're
Yeah.
coming to us racing across town. Our district is enormous geographically.
400 square mile.
400 square,
Ah,
right? So a lot of
wow.
them racing to get to where we teach our in-person class. And so normally we're kind of, let's go, it's time to get going. And we took a nope, we're everybody grab a snack and take a lap and walk and just download your day. And
Yeah.
they all looked at us like, this is the greatest gift. Thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I'm like,
so
okay.
Yeah, I
much.
don't have to sit and force my body into a structure and force all my energy into a seat and a table and like I can be my full energy self right
Right.
now.
And I will
Mhm.
say we did have a couple teachers who looked at me and they went, "Do we have to walk?" And I went, "What do you need?" And they said,
Mhm.
"I would rather just sit here in
Sit here.
silence."
And
And I
have a
was like,
quiet
"And you
moment.
do that."
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for advocating for
Yes,
yourself.
sit away, right? Sit. And I
Yeah.
think that sparked a little bit. And then we also came across, do you follow the Substack SOL in the Wild? It is
Not with,
such
I
a
know
great
of it. There's so many Substacks. I'm having trouble keeping up.
a million Substacks. But we have recently come across it this year. And there was I think I sent it to you even, Gretchen, right before last week, there was an article that came up about the real bottleneck in explicit instruction being the teacher's working memory. And so yes, right?
I remember that.
Next year where we really want to take this is because we were sort of mainly focused on students' working memory. We want to take this piece and really build this out because the point of the article was really that in order for your explicit instruction time to stay on track, you have got to shift the workload into your planning so that your working memory in the moment is not sidetracked. And it was just beautiful, beautifully written. And so I think that's where we kind of have a loose theme, if you will.
Yeah, like we said, we don't have a syllabus, but we do have
Mhm.
like a theme that we kind of
Yeah.
follow each
Yeah.
year.
So we're going to go, I think, here next year with
Mm.
how can we make your planning so intentional that your instruction in the moment is not taken off course.
Mm. I think
Because,
that's beautiful because actually, I mean, I'm so far gone from my classroom teaching days, but since I've been in the research ed world, I get to see some examples as I go to these conferences of explicit instruction. And the feeling in me, honestly, I can tell, like, okay, this is good. I can see why students would be engaged and learn, but I feel panic rising from my belly, imagining how could I move that fast? How could I know the next thing and keep my eye on? And I'm just like, oh my God, the skill building I would have to do would be enormous. And but I'm hearing you say that, right, like if I have time in the day and week to plan, I'd be able to do that. And this comes back to processing speed. Side note, I've also learned that I'm a slower processor,
mm,
Oh.
which you wouldn't know by hearing me talk. I seem like I'm a very fast processor, but I'm actually a slower processor. And so it made me think with teachers and direct instruction, how I love that you shared that about working memory and also how processing speed would fit in there in terms of their own brains and their own executive function capacity.
right. And I wonder if our processing speed is different depending on what we're talking about too, right?
Totally.
I mean,
It's like working memory in the chunks, right? Your chunk gets
Mhm.
bigger
Right.
Yeah, when you're
depending
prior
on,
knowledge, the more prior
yes, you have
knowledge you have, the
more.
faster you can
Exactly.
go. And so I have a lot of prior knowledge at this point, so I can go fast. But with direct
Correct.
instruction techniques, I have no prior knowledge.
Or students with maybe somebody's a super fast processor in math, but not as
Hmm.
fast a processor with ELA or what have you.
Right,
So, it's just fascinating. All of it is
right.
fascinating.
It's so interesting.
When we think about it, it talks about it in the Substack article, but also something that we've been working, me specifically, oh, actually
Mhm.
both of us,
Yeah.
with our literacy office.
Mhm.
Funnily enough, ELA and literacy are not, and we work very closely together, but we are two different offices.
Mhm.
But theirs is more tier two small group.
Mhm.
And even though I kind of oversee that, it's like, how do we
Mhm.
make sure that we're aligned? And a lot of the work that we've done this year with the ELA collaborative is how do we become routined, right? How do we
Yes.
have just learning routines that are direct and explicit instruction so they are constant and consistent, and our processing and working memory is not on what am I supposed to be doing? It's I know what I'm supposed to be doing because it's the same every time. The
Mhm.
content's just different. So now my focus is on the content, not on what am I being asked to do. And so
Yes.
those
Mhm.
systems and routines
Yeah.
really do help with this.
Yeah. I so identify with that. I mean, everything you're saying, I have a version of in the academic coaching and
Mhm.
tutoring world. I'm about to after this time together, we'll be leading a free webinar called Met to Motivated with 5 coaching moves that I've discovered helps move
Very
students
excited.
and educators from Met to Motivated, which is what I hear your Science of Learning Collective has done for teachers.
Yeah.
Exactly. That I let that title. We may have to ask you to borrow that.
I love that. From
That's
that motivated.
that's
To Motivated.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And I'm realizing, so I hope I remember to say this when I teach the webinar, that I call them coaching moves, but really they're teaching moves. Anybody can do them when you're working with students, but they really are routines. They're coaching routines.
Yeah. They become
Um,
internalized.
yes, yes. Just the word routine is just kind of more boring. A move sounds more
Yeah,
interesting.
it
It's meh.
sounds
It's totally
that's
meh.
bad, but the motivator is
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly.
move.
Exactly. Well, is there anything else you wanted to share that we haven't heard yet as we move into wrap up space? Or did you share anything you were
We
thinking?
shared all the
I think we
things.
shared. I'm just
Okay,
so
great.
grateful, Gretchen. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Yeah.
talking with our teachers.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I
Thanks
can't
for your time.
believe how just truly effective it was. And it gets me excited actually about doing more of these one-offs. It was just an hour and a half of my time.
Mhm.
And
And
we took
normally
it
I'm so
planned.
resistant because I don't think it's going to be, we know that just lecturing to a group doesn't work. But I think because I knew that you guys were holding such a beautiful container for co-inquiry, I felt and I knew that the teachers were choosing to be there, I felt really okay doing a one-off. And it's so beautiful to follow up and hear that it really did ripple in very far across 400 square miles
True.
of your
That's
district.
true. Yes.
So thank you so much. Is there anything you want people to know as we wrap about if they want to find out more about y'all's work in your district, where they should go?
Probably our podcast, I would say.
I would say brainwaves if they want to hear more just from we do both we'll like hear from an educational giant. Someone like Dr. Pooja Agarwal was our latest educational giant.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She was wonderful.
And then we always do a follow-up podcast episode with teachers from our system that are doing the work, right, in theory that the educational giant said was talking about and like what it looked like in their classroom.
Oh.
So that's something if they want to connect just and learn. Other than that, social media, I know that I'm on Instagram,
You're on all
X,
the
I'm on
things.
TikTok, everywhere. You can find
All
me
the places.
at
I'll follow you then. I
Okay,
haven't
perfect.
followed you yet.
I'm mostly X and LinkedIn.
Okay.
But yeah, we're on all the things. And
Yeah.
I think our podcast, we love that we have shifted to highlighting educators in the classroom as well, and not just the author and the speaker, but who's doing the work every day.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say to people who are curious about cognitive overload, I'm talking about it all the time. So get onto my list. But also, if you go to antiboringlearninglab.com, and there's a free resources section, and I do model a bit of the mini lecture in our free library there. And then that will get you on my list. So as I continue to cultivate new details or like this processing speed edition that will come out. And I actually did blog about teachers' working memory after you sent that article to me. I blogged about
fantastic.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to it occurred to me, if you ever want to have me come on the podcast, but invite some of the teachers who taught it to their students and just have us be all together, because I'm not a giant. I don't necessarily need to take up a whole podcast.
You are a giant.
But I think it would be so fun to meet some of those teachers, to hear their stories and to share a little bit more. So if that sounds fun, let me know.
Love that.
We'd love that.
Love that.
Yes. All right. So stay tuned, YouTube. Maybe you'll see that coming out at some point. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Gretchen.
for having us.